Today I'm canning pears, and the best type of pear to use for canning are Bartlett pears. You can use others, but these are supposedly the best. And if you use a Kefir pear, something like that, then you need to cook them until they're just about soft before you can them. If you use Asian pears, they're the more round pears. You need to acidify the pears by adding a tablespoon of lemon juice to a pint, or 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to a quart. So the first thing I need to do is peel these pears and then cut them in half. And then I'll take a melon baller and get the core out of the center. And then get that strip of fiber out of the top and out of the bottom. Then I drop it into a bowl of water that's been treated with fruit fresh. Now I'm making the syrup to cook the pears in. I'm making a light syrup using 2 1/4 cup of sugar and 5 1/4 cup of water. When you cook the pears, you're supposed to do it in single layers, and to keep the process going, I'm using 2 pots. I'm going to have 2 pots of pears going at a time. It is not recommended to raw pack pears. One of the reasons is they will turn very dark on you, and they found that they end up under processed if you raw pack them. The problem is, and I've tried to explain it in the other videos, but I'm just not the most eloquent person, so I don't think I'm getting the point across, and it's my fault, but foods have air in them, and when you cook them, air is released. If you don't cook them, that air remains in that food, and pears brown very easily when they're exposed to air. So if the air remains inside the pears when you can them, then they're going to turn brown on you inside that jar. And they also said there's the problem that raw packing the pears, they're ending up under processed, that if you insist on raw packing pears, add 5 minutes to the processing time. Also, there's I think it was the Pennsylvania Extension Office explained this far better than I ever can. So if I can find that link, I'll put it in the description box. But it discusses the part about the air and the food and how it can lead to problems and the siphoning of liquids from the jars and all of that. So I'm going to cook these pears for about 5 minutes. Okay, the pears in the back have boiled for 5 minutes. I have my jars hot and ready, and my lids and rings out of simmer. So I'm going to start canning. I take a hot jar and I fill it with the pears. And I should have used some wide mouth jars for this because these pears were a bit big. That one went in pretty good. And when you can pears, you can can them in water or in apple juice or white grape juice, or a light syrup or a medium syrup. But sugar is used as a preservative, and it will help the pears retain their flavor if you use sugar. It will also help them retain their shape and their color. So if you can the pears in water, they will be less flavorful, and they'll end up dull and lose their shape. And somebody asked me about using honey in canning recipes, And you can substitute honey for some of the sugar, but no more than half. So I'm going to fill the jars with the pears to within about ½ inch of the top, and then add the syrup. Then remove the air bubbles. Wipe the rim of the jar clean. Add a hot lid and a ring and tighten it firmly. Then I set the jar in the canner to stay warm until I have all of the jars full. Now that I have all of the jars full, I'm going to drop the rack down into the water. Always make sure there's at least 1 inch of water covering the jar. Now I'm going to bring the water back up to a boil. When you see steam coming out from under the lid, then you know to start your processing time. I'm going to process these jars for 20 minutes. If I was doing quarts, it would be for 25 minutes. If you live at high altitudes, you need to adjust the processing time to suit your altitude. When the processing time was complete, I turned off the heat, removed the lid, and let the canner sit for at least 5 minutes. Now I'm going to remove the jars and set them on a towel on the counter to cool. Tomorrow I'll remove the rings, wash the jars, write Pears on the top, and the date that I canned them. So here's the Pears a month after I canned them. I'm going to open them up and show you how they turn out. So there they are. They are absolute perfection. So much better than store-bought. And if some things that you can yourself end up better than store-bought, some don't. These do. So that's how you can Pears. I hope it helps.